In 1998, a snowmobile company in Minnesota did something that should have been impossible. They built an American motorcycle from scratch, rolled it off an assembly line in Spirit Lake, Iowa on the 4th of July, and watched Cycle World name it Best Cruiser of the Year before most customers could even buy one. Over the next 18 years, that company would build somewhere north of 125,000 motorcycles. They won 25 industry awards. They created 60 different models that critics consistently praised. By almost every measure, they earned it. So how did Polaris Industries end up killing their own motorcycle brand, eating hundreds of millions in losses, and watching the bikes they built get scrapped for parts? That answer starts with a locked conference room, a magazine survey, and a CEO who rode the very first bike off the factory floor himself. It was 1993. And Polaris Industries was a billion-dollar company built on snowmobiles and a TVS out of a small town in northern Minnesota. They were profitable, they were growing, and their chief executive officer, a Harvard Business School graduate named W. Hall Wendell Jr., was getting restless. Wendell had a reputation for bold moves. Back in 1981, he had led a management buyout to purchase Polaris from its corporate parent, Textron. According to his own telling at a Harvard Business School alumni event, they signed the deal on the back of a napkin in a bar in Providence, Rhode Island. No lawyers, no investment bankers, just a handshake and a bar napkin. That kind of guy does not sit still when the snowmobile market gets cyclical. So Wendell set up what insiders called the War Room in a Plymouth, Minnesota office building. He put two product managers on the case, Matt Parks from ATVS and Bob Nygaard from Snowmobiles. Their job was simple. Find the next big growth opportunity for Polaris. They looked at chainsaws. They looked at lawn and garden equipment. They considered a dozen different product categories. But then Parks pulled data from a survey Polaris had run through their Spirit Customer magazine, a massive mailing that reached over 300,000 Polaris owners. And the results were clear. Polaris owners wanted motorcycles, not dirt bikes, not scooters, full-size, American-made heavyweight cruisers. The timing made sense. In the mid-1990s, Harley-Davidson was experiencing a boom unlike anything the motorcycle industry had ever seen. Demand was outpacing supply. Customers were waiting months for new Harleys. Used bikes were selling for more than new ones. The cruiser market was on fire, and Harley basically owned the whole thing with roughly half of the US heavyweight motorcycle segment, according to RL Polk registration data. Parks and the engineering team made a gutsy call. They were not going to license somebody else's engine or rebrand a Japanese design. They were going to build a clean sheet, American-made V-twin from the ground up, a 50-degree, 1,507 cubic centimeter engine with single overhead cams, 4 valves per cylinder, and electronic fuel injection. At the time, it was the largest V-twin production engine in the cruiser market, second only to Honda's 1,520 cubic centimeter Valkyrie Flat 6, among all production motorcycles. The internal code name was Victory. Matt Parks chose it for its World War II resonance, V for Victory. On a September evening in 1997, IndyCar champion Al Unser Jr. rode the pre-production Victory V92C into Planet Hollywood at the Mall of America in Minneapolis. CEO Wendell, company president Ken Larson, and Matt Parks addressed the press. Cycle World's coverage captured Wendell's pitch. He called the V92C a work of art and insisted Polaris had everything it took to build the world's finest cruiser: passion, engineering, the dealer network, the customer base. Marketing manager Kevin Mollett was more candid about the actual strategy. Their target, he said, was not Harley riders. It was the Japanese cruiser rider who wanted an American alternative without the Harley premium. The launch tagline, "It's a free country," ran against Monument Valley Desert imagery. And here's the thing that's easy to forget. The plan worked, at first. Roughly 2,000 bikes rolled off the Spirit Lake line in the first model year, distributed through about 200 charter dealers. The V92C retailed around $13,000, roughly $1,000 to $3,000 below comparable Harleys. Cycle World named it Best Cruiser of 1998. Motorcycle Cruiser gave it Cruiser of the Year in 1999. A New Jersey rider named Joe Klein completed the first coast-to-coast Victory ride from Manhattan to San Francisco in late 1998. But early sales were modest, and the V92C had some growing pains. The engine was reliable, but the bike's packaging and cosmetics needed refinement. The V92 SC Sport Cruiser, launched in 2000, flopped and got pulled after just 1 year, and the financial reality was harsh. By most accounts, Victory did not reach consistent profitability until somewhere from 2002 to 2006. CEO Scott Wine would later tell MinnPost in a 2013 interview that Victory did not reach sustained profitability until 2006, a full 8 years after the division launched. Think about that. 8 years of investing, building, marketing, and losing money before seeing a single profitable quarter. Motorcycle Industry Council President Tim Busch called what Polaris accomplished remarkable, and he was not wrong. Building a motorcycle brand from scratch in a market defined by Harley's century-deep emotional connection to American identity is about as close to a corporate suicide mission as it gets. But Polaris stuck with it, and in 2003, everything changed. That year, Victory released the Vegas, designed by Michael Song, and it was a completely different animal from the V92C. Gone was the retro cruiser look. The Vegas had a teardrop tank, low-slung custom styling, and chrome everywhere. It looked like someone had taken a custom chopper and made it production-ready. The motorcycle press went crazy. Cycle World, Cruising Rider, V-Twin Magazine, and Motorcyclist all named it Best Cruiser of the Year. The Vegas became Victory's signature bike, the one that proved they could build something with genuine identity, not just a Harley alternative. Polaris doubled down. The Kingpin arrived in 2004. The Hammer Muscle Cruiser came in 2005, which, according to Ultimate Motorcycling and Rider magazine, was the first heavyweight cruiser to come standard with a 6-speed transmission. The Vegas Jackpot in 2006 added a wider 250mm rear tire and louder paint. In 2003, Victory signed a partnership with legendary custom builder Arlen Ness and his family. The limited edition Signature Series bikes, with custom paint, billet accessories, and signed side panels, gave Victory something money can't usually buy: credibility in the custom scene. The Victory Vision debuted in February 2007 for the 2008 model year, and it was the brand's most ambitious design yet. A full-fairing touring motorcycle with luxury electronics, powered by the new Freedom 106 cubic inch V-twin. Critics either loved it or hated its space-age styling. When Victory released a limited 10th anniversary edition of the Vision in 2008, just 100 units sold online direct to customers, all 100 sold out in 7 minutes flat, according to Victory's own press release. By 2009, Polaris crossed 50,000 cumulative Victory motorcycles produced. The 2010 Cross Country and Crossroads baggers gave Victory a more conventional touring product and became the volume leaders in the lineup. In 2009, Gregor Moe rode a modified Victory Kingpin to 165 miles per hour on the Bonneville Salt Flats. In 2014, a Victory Hammer hit 173 miles per hour at the same location. Victory peaked around 2012 with an estimated 10,000 to 15,000 motorcycles sold annually. That was the high watermark. The brand was winning awards, building genuinely innovative motorcycles, and had carved out a small but loyal following. And this is where the story takes a turn nobody expected. On April 19, 2011, Polaris announced it had acquired Indian Motorcycle. Indian, founded in 1901, was the oldest American motorcycle brand in history. After the original company closed in 1953, Indian bounced through decades of bankruptcies, failed revivals, and ownership changes. By 2011, it was owned by UK private equity firms Stelican Limited, run by Stephen Julius, and Novator Partners, controlled by Icelandic investor Thor Björgolfsson. They had set up a small manufacturing operation in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, but the brand was still tiny. CEO Scott Wine framed the acquisition as a growth play. He said Polaris was excited to be part of the revitalization of a quintessentially American brand, and that they would deliver the classic Indian motorcycle, enhanced by the quality and performance for which Polaris and Victory are known. Read that last part again. He specifically mentioned Victory. He was promising to make both brands work. Stephen Julius, selling Indian to Polaris, said Polaris was the most logical owner of Indian Motorcycle, because Indian's heritage would allow Polaris to aggressively compete across an expanded spectrum of the motorcycle market. Expanded spectrum, 2 American cruiser brands under one roof. On paper, the logic seemed sound. Victory would be the modern, performance-oriented American cruiser. Indian would be the heritage, classic American brand. Different customers, different vibes, same parent company. If you've ever watched a corporation try to run two competing products side by side, you probably already know how this ends. On August 3, 2013, at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in South Dakota, Polaris unveiled the 2014 Indian Chief lineup: the Chief Classic, the Vintage, and the Chieftain Bagger. They were powered by an entirely new engine called the Thunderstroke 111, a clean sheet, 49-degree, 1,811 cubic centimeters V-twin engine, producing 119 pound-feet of torque, validated across more than 2 million test miles. The bikes were stunning. Cycle World and Roadrunner both gave the Chieftain Motorcycle of the Year honors. Steve Manito, then vice president of Polaris's motorcycle division, framed the launch around Indian's heritage, noting that the Sturgis Rally itself was started in 1936 by the local Indian motorcycle club, the Jack Pine Gypsies. That Sturgis moment was the beginning of the end for Victory. Not because Indian was bad, because Indian was too good. From the Sturgis reveal forward, the resources, the marketing budget, the dealer attention, and the customer demand all started migrating toward the heritage brand. Indian had something Victory could never build, no matter how good their engineering was: a century of American mythology. The internal cannibalization became impossible to ignore with the Indian Scout in 2014 and the Victory Octane in 2016. Both bikes were built around closely related liquid-cooled V-twin architecture. Many industry observers, and later reporting from Ride Apart, argued the platform was originally intended for Victory before being prioritized for Indian to boost the more marketable heritage brand. Victory got a derivative version 2 years later. The Octane launched as a 2017 model at $10,499. The Indian Scout 60, its corporate sibling, started at $8,999. Same parent company. Similar engine platform, $500 apart. Ride Apart's analysis was pointed. They wrote that 2 years earlier, the Octane would have been celebrated. But in a world that had already seen the Indian Scout, it felt like leftovers. Industry estimates put total Octane production at roughly 4,000 units before Polaris pulled the plug, though exact numbers were never officially released. If you are finding this useful, consider subscribing. I cover deep dives on stories like this every week. Now here's where things get really ugly. By 2015, Victory's problems were stacking up in ways that couldn't be fixed with a new paint scheme. And it wasn't just internal. The overall US motorcycle market had roughly halved since its 2006 peak, squeezing every manufacturer. But on top of that industry-wide contraction, Victory had its own unique crisis. The brand had no clear identity anymore. It wasn't cheaper than Harley. It didn't have Indian's heritage. The dealer network was eroding because many Victory dealers had become combined Victory and Indian stores, and when a customer walked in the door, the salesperson was pushing Indian. Why wouldn't they? Indian was the brand with momentum. Late-period Victory models often received nothing more than new colors and graphics, while Indian got navigation systems, Bluetooth connectivity, tire pressure monitoring, electric locking bags, and keyless ignition. Victory owners on forums were furious. They could see, in real time, that their brand was being starved while Indian got everything. The cost of Euro 4 emissions compliance in 2017 was the final straw. Making the whole Victory lineup compliant wasn't economical for the sales volume involved, so Polaris cut Victory's European lineup to just 4 models. By some industry estimates, average per dealer Victory sales had fallen to around 20 bikes per year across roughly 400 North American dealers. Polaris had lost money on Victory in 3 of the previous 5 years. On January 9, 2017, Polaris announced it was immediately winding down the Victory brand. No phase-out period. No final model year farewell tour. Just done. CEO Scott Wine's statement was careful but blunt. He called it an incredibly difficult decision and acknowledged that Polaris had invested not only resources, but our hearts and souls into Victory over 18 years. He cited the 60 models and 25 industry awards, but the bottom line was clear. Consolidating behind Indian and the Slingshot 3-wheeler would improve the profitability of Polaris and our global motorcycle business. Polaris took an $80 to $90 million one-time charge for inventory liquidation, tooling disposal, and supplier cancellations. Polaris shares dipped modestly on the news. Wall Street honestly was fine with it. UBS analyst Robin Farley noted that Victory's sales had peaked in 2012 before the introduction of Indian, declining every year after, with the business being unprofitable for 3 of the last 5 years. Jefferies analyst Trevor Young called the move a positive and said Polaris was doubling down on Indian. Wall Street was fine, the dealers were not. Star Tribune reporter Dee DePass captured the fallout on the ground. Jamie Kurkowski, assistant sales manager at Mies Outland in Watkins, Minnesota, one of the largest Polaris dealers in the state, didn't mince words. He said they'd sunk a lot of money into Victory and were sad to see it go. In good years, his dealership sold 150 Victories. Lately, it had dropped to 75 or 100. Wade Rice, a dealer in Rapid City, South Dakota, summed up the cold logic even more directly. He told the Rapid City Journal that sometimes doors open and they close, and unfortunately his dealership wasn't going to come out ahead on this one. Polaris, he said, had to sacrifice one brand to make the other one grow faster. Sacrifice one to make the other grow faster. That's about as honest a summary of corporate cannibalization as you'll ever hear from someone who just got burned by it. Now, let's talk about the money, because the numbers in the title of this video deserve some scrutiny. The claim that Polaris invested $800 million into Victory circulates widely online, but here's what's important. That figure does not appear in any Polaris SEC filing, annual report, or on the record executive statement that has been publicly sourced. The only verified lifetime financial figure comes from Steve Menneto, who was then president of motorcycles at Polaris. In a March 2017 interview with Cycle News, Menneto said Victory lost over $100 million in building more than 125,000 motorcycles in the past 18 years, since its July 1998 start of production. Over $100 million in losses on 125,000 motorcycles across 18 years. That's the number we can actually verify. The $800 million figure likely represents total cumulative investment, including research and development, tooling, manufacturing, marketing, dealer development, and overhead, not just net losses. But until someone produces the original source, it remains an estimate, not a fact. And honestly, the story is dramatic enough with the verified numbers. So was killing Victory the right call? Financially, the answer looks like yes. After Victory's death, Indian's trajectory accelerated. According to Polaris's own investor presentations, Indian's North American market share in the midsize and heavyweight motorcycle segment grew from roughly 2% in 2014 to over 13% by mid-2023. Over that same period, Harley-Davidson sales declined and the overall heavyweight market contracted, making Indian's growth even more impressive. In 2023, Polaris Chief Financial Officer Bob Mack confirmed on the Q4 earnings call that Indian Motorcycle had achieved its first year of profitability, with gross margin improving sharply across the second half of the year. Worth noting, though, that Polaris bundles Indian into a broader on-road segment in its financial filings, so the profitability claim is management's characterization, not a separately audited line item. The resources freed up by killing Victory funded the Indian Challenger touring lineup, the FTR 1200 flat-track-inspired street bike, the Pursuit full-dress tourer, and the completely redesigned 2024 Scout family. Indian became the focused, well-funded competitor to Harley that Victory never quite managed to be. But there is a deeper question here that the spreadsheets cannot answer. Did Polaris have to kill Victory, or did they create an unsolvable problem by buying Indian without a clear plan for how two American cruiser brands would coexist? There were people inside Polaris who believed Victory could have survived as a performance and electric brand. Victory had the Impulse TT electric motorcycle, developed from Bravo's technology after Polaris acquired that company in January 2015. Victory raced the Impulse RR to second place at the 2016 Isle of Man Electric TT. They entered the Project 156 prototype at Pikes Peak. There was a path toward making Victory the modern, electric, performance-oriented future of Polaris motorcycles, while Indian carried the heritage flag. But that path required continued investment during years when Victory was bleeding money. And with Indian finally gaining traction, the math just didn't work. The American cruiser market that Victory tried to crack was never really about motorcycles. It was about identity. The average Harley-Davidson customer, according to a UBS survey cited by CNBC in January 2019, was a married man in his early 50s with a household income at or above $90,000. He wasn't buying transportation. He was buying a version of himself: freedom, rebellion, the open road, the eagle, the chrome. Victory built motorcycles that were objectively well-engineered, competitively priced, and critically acclaimed. But they couldn't build that feeling. They couldn't manufacture 100 years of mythology. And when their own parent company acquired a brand that already had that mythology, the game was over. Today, if you look closely at Indian's lineup, Victory's engineering DNA is still there. The 2022 Indian Scout Rogue was widely noted by motorcycle journalists as being heavily influenced by the same engineering platform that powered the Victory Octane. Victory's engineers, Victory's platforms, Victory's innovations live on inside the Indian brand. The bike survived, the name didn't. In October 2025, Polaris officially announced it was separating Indian Motorcycle into a standalone company and selling a majority stake to Carolwood LP, a Los Angeles-based private equity firm. The deal closed in early 2026. The brand that ate Victory alive is now on its own, navigating the same brutal market dynamics that killed its corporate sibling. Paul Wendell rode Victory Motorcycle No. 1 off the Spirit Lake assembly line on July 4, 1998, with a factory employee on the back seat. It was the most American image imaginable. Independence Day, a small-town Iowa factory, a brand new American motorcycle, built by a company that started with snowmobiles and a napkin deal in a bar. 19 years later, the same company signed the paperwork to kill everything he'd built. And the craziest part? The bikes were never the problem.